Hello, this is Hwan Sensinim, and welcome to our program. I was contacted by an old student recently, and this student of mine I had first met when he was just out of college, and I liked him right away. He was very funny and clever and smart and a little bit conceited maybe, but he was young and he was very charming, and I really liked him quite a bit. And at the time he was studying, I think, to get some more licenses, and then with that he wanted to get a job, and he had dreams of being very successful and making great achievements in his career. And then I lost touch with him as he went out to do those things, and then, as I said, he contacted me again, and I was very sad to see that he was very dejected and disappointed with himself. It turned out that he wasn't able to get into, he did get a job, but he wasn't able to get into the company that he wanted to get into, and he judged himself very harshly for it. And he told me privately, he said, when I was young, I know I was a little cocky, but I really believed that I was special, that I could do special things. But, I don't think that anymore. I feel very foolish for having thought that of myself, and I really feel like I failed, and I'm just very unhappy with the situation. And this kind of story I hear over and over and over again. It's just very sad. And every time I want to tell them how special I think they are, but it just doesn't get through. So for that student, and for all of the students who have had similar kinds of suffering and difficulties, I would like to do today's episode on behalf of them. On today's episode, we will consider how can we turn our perceived failure into success. So many of us, both young and old, want to do something meaningful and significant with our lives. And honestly, we also want to do something that's impressive, that shows our worth and our ability to the world. And so we graduate from school and we go out into the workforce, and we get in there and do the best we can, and we find that the world is very competitive. And we find out, wow, there's really a lot of smart, hardworking, talented people out there. This really is not going to be as easy as I thought. But still, we're hopeful, we're inspired, and we try as best as we can. We work very hard, and time goes by, and maybe some of us, reach their dreams early, but I think many of us continue to struggle. And as the competition grows, we begin to doubt ourselves. We wonder, can I really do this? Do I have what it takes? And the fact is that there are so many smart people, there are so many talented people, and maybe I'm just one of the crowd. And so very hard times can come as we doubt ourselves, and then we may reach a certain landmark in our lives, maybe graduating from school or getting to a certain age at work or getting to a certain position, and we look at ourselves and think, is this all I've got? Is this the best that I can do? And we can fall into very dark times. We can lose our momentum and our courage and our fighting spirit. So in his Dharma speeches, Sun Master Songdam tells us that it's very important in our sun meditation practice that we have to persevere through the darkest times, the hardest times. Those times will come in our practice, and we need to be prepared for them. And we need to assume that there will be days when we wonder, can I really do this? Do I really have what it takes? So why don't we listen to Sun Master Songdam's Dharma speech together as he tells us how in our practice and in our lives we use sun meditation to get through the coldest, darkest times of our lives. So please assume sun meditation posture. Relax your shoulders, tuck in your chin, take the tip of your tongue and press it lightly against the roof of your mouth. Straighten your spine. Imagine that there is a single hair from the crown of your head that's tied to the ceiling, and our head and our spine dangle from it. That's how light your upper body should feel. And as we hold this posture, just exhale whatever air there might be in your lungs. And as we inhale, let's engage Dantien breathing and Imoko. So together, breathe in, pause, and then as we breathe out, Imoko. What is this? What is this that directs my body? What is this that thinks my thoughts? What is this that experiences my feelings? We ask ourselves, Imoko, with every out-breath, and we turn our gaze inward to the source of our own awareness, to the thing that's paying attention, and we raise the great doubt in proper sun meditation practice. And as we do this, let's listen to the teachings of Sun Master Songdam.
진로 형탈사비상이라 긴파승두 주일장인이라 나 모아이미 답을 불시 1번 한철골인된 쟁득매화 박비향이려나 오아이미 아부 이 개성은 황벽 선사의 후래 선학자들을 위해서 이 개송을 항상 가슴에 새기고 읊으면서 자신에게 채찍을 가하며 정진을 하도록 설해 주신 개송입니다. 생사라고 하는 것은 진리의 입각에서 보면은 생사는 본래 없는 것이다 이렇게 말씀을 하셨습니다. 그 생사가 육체를 가지고 있다가 육체를 버리면 죽었다고 그러고 육체를 가지고 있는 동안에는 살아있다고 그러는데 생사는 꼭 육체만 기준을 두는 것이 아니고 우리의 생각이 한 생각이 일어났다 꺼지면 그것이 바로 생사이고 한 생각 속에도 900생멸이 있다고 보면은 수없는 생사를 되풀이하면서 우리는 일생을 이렇게 살아갑니다. 정법을 믿는 사람은 그 생각 일어났다 꺼졌다 한 거기에 휩쓸려 불려 따라가는 것이 아니라 무슨 좋은 생각이나 부진 생각이나 희로애락 어떠한 생각이 일어나더라도 그 생각 일어나는 거기에 즉해서 화두를 들므로 해서 생사 속에서 생사 없는 길로 가는 것입니다. 그러므로 해서 수행을 할 줄 모르는 사람은 그것이 번뇌요 망상이요 생사고 거기에서 수없는 업을 지어가지고 그 업이 생각으로 짓고 육체로 짓고 행동으로 짓고 그래가지고 무량겁을 생사윤회를 하는 것인데 정법을 믿고 큰 스님의 법문에 의지해서 화두를 들고 정진하는 사람은 번뇌망상 일어나는 것을 한탄하지 않고 그것을 없애려고 하지 않고 그 일어나는 그 생각에 즉해서 이 먹고 이렇게 수행을 해나가는 것입니다. 그래서 이 정법을 믿고 수행하는 사람은 번뇌망상이 버려야 할 그런 못된 것이 아니라 바로 자성을 깨닫는 수행의 발판이 되는 것입니다.
So in his Dharma speech, Sun Master Songdam tells us that we have to practice sun meditation with such intensity that we will enter into what he metaphorically calls the coldest winter, where the cold pierces to our bones. And it is only then that we will be able to smell the sweet fragrance of enlightenment. But he also tells us that we have to do this with skill, that we must not view the thoughts and emotions, oftentimes negative thoughts and emotions that arise in our mind and our heart, we must not view them as an obstruction. The one who knows how to swim in the currents of the mind means the never-ending flow of thoughts and feelings that go through our hearts, our minds, and our bodies. The ones who skillfully knows how to use sun meditation to go with that flow and to swim in that current will be able to use the most painful thoughts and emotions as a springboard to further inspire and fuel their sun meditation practice. And what I would like to suggest that is not only true in sun meditation, it's also true in life. That if we're very serious about the work that we do or whatever it is that we're studying, and we try very hard and we may enter into very, very intense competition, then we will enter into a time when it feels like the world is so cold, the competition is so harsh, that the cold is piercing into our bones, and we will struggle there. But the one who knows how to skillfully regulate their thoughts and emotions can get through that. So for the student who talked to me, and for all of us out there who feel that they've been crushed and devastated by some failure, this is something that happens to many of us. We try our best, and on a certain day, we may feel that we have failed to achieve our greatest dream. And the depression and disappointment and loss of confidence that follows can indeed be difficult. But it truly is possible to use that experience to grow and evolve and go to a higher level of living. I know this to be true from personal experience. Now, on this program, I try not to talk about myself and my personal life because I really don't think that that's important. The purpose of the program is to share the teachings of my own teacher, Sun Master Songdam, with the world. But for today, for this student and for others who feel like him, I would like to share the story of my own personal greatest failure. Now, as I've shared on this program before, I met my teacher when I was quite young. I had just graduated from college. I didn't speak any Korean. I didn't know anything about Korean culture, but I was interested in meeting a real live enlightened master. And so eventually I found my way to meet Sun Master Songdam. And it's very difficult to describe how amazingly inspired I was by him. And in many ways, how immature my feelings toward him were at the time as well. Some adolescents and teenagers, they idolize like pop stars or movie actors or professional athletes. For me, I idolized Sun Master Songdam. He was in a very real way, he was my hero. In a very real way, he was a rock star to me. And everything he did was amazing to me. And I very much wanted to be like him. That was my private dream, that in a very real way, I wanted to be like him, I wanted to be him. And so, I was fresh out of college, and, when I first became a monk, I was very interested in hearing stories about him and sort of seeing, well, maybe I could live that way too. So I heard, well, he was born into a distinguished, well-respected family in the province that he comes from in the southern part of Korea, and that among his siblings, he was very bright. He was a very bright student, and he was very smart. And I remember thinking, well, I'm a pretty good student. I can check that, check on that. And then I heard that he met his teacher and was inspired by his own teacher, Sun Master Jeongang, also at a very young age. And I thought, I met him at a young age. I'm coming along, right? And then I heard that as soon as he became a monastic, he entered into and successfully conducted a 10-year vow of silence through some of the most turbulent times in Korean history. Part of that time was during the Korean War. So I thought, well, how am I supposed to compare with that? And there are all these stories of how intensely he practiced. He worked all day. He stayed up all night meditating with his own teacher. They wandered around the countryside. It was another time in Korean history. It was another kind of environment that Buddhist monks lived in. I thought, well, how am I supposed to do that? How can I do anything comparable? And so there was always this tendency to compare myself with him. And I remember I heard this incredible story. It's a rather well-known story about him when he was conducting his silence. He had been conducting his vow of silence for a few years, and his father, called him home. And you have to remember that Sun Master Songdam comes from a different generation, a different time. And in his time, especially in the culture that he was raised in, the father in the family had absolute authority. You just could not say no. And his own father and his paternal grandfather were tremendously respected in the area that he lived. They were very famous. And his own father had a reputation for being very formidable, very, very hard to, sort of disobey. So Sun Master Songdam went home. And his family was there waiting for him. And his father, who was very austere and very commanding, he went up to Sun Master Songdam, his son, and he said, it's time for you to stop being a monk. I want you to take off those robes. We've selected someone for you to marry. You're going to get married to her. You're going to live like a normal person, right? And this was what was done in that time. In those days, in Sun Master Songdam's generation, people didn't choose who they would get married to. They had it arranged for them by their families. And in that culture, it is considered, really the worst thing to defy your parents. It's not like the United States these days, where defying your parents and defying authority figures can be, sort of beautified and romanticized. So Sun Master Songdam heard what his father said, and he just stood still. He just came to a complete standstill, didn't talk, didn't move, just stood there like a statue. And this, his father was upset by this, and he says, say something, do what I tell you. And Sun Master Songdam didn't move a muscle, he just stood there. And so the father thought, oh, well, he's being stubborn, he's being obstinate, so it's just he'll run out of energy, he'll have to bend to my will. But the hours passed, and Sun Master Songdam was just standing there, not moving a muscle, not saying anything. Nightfall came, and he was still standing there. So the father was troubled, but he was also a very stubborn man, used to getting his way. So he thought, well, this is some kind of childish rebellion. He'll come around. He's just going to run out of energy. So all night long, Sun Master Songdam stood there. And in the morning, when his father awoke and came back, he saw his son still standing there. Clearly a little bit more tired, but still standing there. And he thought, wow, he's really stubborn. But he has to do what I say. I have to save him from this life that he's going into. So Sun Master Songdam stood there during the day, the whole day long, while the family did what they do in their home. And evening came again, and he was still standing there. And the father by then was starting to feel sad. his son was clearly tired. He didn't eat anything. He didn't drink anything. He didn't go to the bathroom. So he was like, all right, go get something to eat, and, we can talk about it tomorrow in the morning. And still, Sun Master Songdam stood there. And so he couldn't be convinced, so the father just kind of went to sleep, very troubled. And the next morning he woke up, it's the third day, he goes there, and yes, Sun Master Songdam is still standing there. And he realized then that he could not break his son's will, that he was utterly, totally committed to this path. And so with a very heavy heart, he said to his son, all right, do as you will. Follow your heart. And whatever you learn, I hope you'll come back and share with me. And he sent him on his way. So this is a very well-known story about Sun Master Songdam, and when you hear it, this is, to modern ears, this is a superhuman feat. And when I first heard the story, I remember talking about it with my Dharma brothers, and we wondered how it's hard to stand for 3 hours, let alone 3 whole days. So we wondered how he did it. And some of us thought, well, maybe he was always possessed of a ferocious, unbreakable willpower and drive. So maybe that's what it was. And some of us thought, well, by then he had attained to a very high level of meditative practice. He had entered into a very, a refined state of concentration, and that's how he did it. But one way or the other, his life exploits were legendary. And we heard the stories. He undertook his vow for 10 years, 10 years of silence, and then he became enlightened at the age of 30. And then after that, he went out and he displayed all kinds of amazing talents and skills. He is a beautiful traditional Korean painter. He is a master calligrapher. He can play all kinds of instruments. He's a beautiful player of the Korean flute, which is called piri in Korean. But he can also do all sorts of odd, unexpected things. He can play the harmonica. He knows how to raise bees. I don't know how he got around to learning how to raise bees. He can raise watermelons. He knows all kinds of construction techniques. It's like anything that a human being can do with their hands, somehow, somewhere along the line, he learned how to do. He's like more of an artist than any artist I've ever met, more of a craftsman than any craftsman I've ever met. He's the best disciple that we've ever heard of, and he was the most respected and venerated enlightened master in Korea. So, how do you follow on the footsteps of someone like that? Do you have any idea what it's like to be the disciple of someone like that? He is like every great enlightened master in Korean Buddhist history rolled into one. But this is what I wanted. I wanted to be like him. So for years, I tried to do it the way that I thought he had done it. And every single time I would fail. And the stories were overwhelming. Standing still for 3 days, 10 years of silence and all of his artistic abilities. And it's something that I wanted so badly for myself. And so I would try over and over again, fail over and over again. It was like trying to start a car, that the engine just won't turn on. And after a while, I felt pretty bad about myself. I thought, well, maybe the engine will never turn on. Maybe the car is, something wrong with the car. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And so I became pretty dejected over time. And there came a time when I looked in the mirror. Years had passed, and I looked in the mirror and I asked myself, am I the person who I want to be? And the answer to that question was no. I am not satisfied with who I am, and I'm not satisfied with the way things are going. So I had to really think about this very carefully, and I had to admit that in terms of becoming like my teacher, Sun Master Songdam, I was a complete and total failure. In fact, I doubt that anyone could fail as completely as I had in doing that. And I realized then that finally, that I would have to do things my own way. So I put aside all of these stories about him and his teacher that I had always loved and cherished and sort of wished I could be like too. I put them all aside and I thought, Let's figure out how to do all this all over again, and we'll do it the way that I know how to do it. And so I looked over his teachings on sun meditation, and I really studied it from a fresh perspective. Instead of trying to do it the way others had done it, I just looked at it on its own terms. I thought, how does this work? How can I use this, combined with what I know and what I'm good at? How can I do that to solve the problems that I have? Because I have so many problems. I have so many problems about my personality, about the way I do things, the way my human relationships are. How can I do these things? How can I solve those problems? Let's just see if I can do those things first. And so, I began going through the things about myself that I wanted to fix, the things about my life that I wanted to fix, one by one. And I have to tell you, I really do have a lot of problems. And this is how I learned to believe in the teachings of sun meditation my way, through my own experience, because every time I would say, it works. It works the way he said it would. I had to do it my own way to figure that out, but it works on this, and it works on that. And little by little, I gained confidence, and little by little, things began to change in my life. When I look back at it all, this whole path that I had to come out, in following and learning from my teacher, I think, Sun Master Songdam teaches the Dharma of living phrase sun meditation because he is enlightened and because he is unlike anyone I have ever met. That's just an objective fact. Now, I, on the other hand, share his teachings of sun meditation because I have had so many problems, because I am actually like everyone I have ever met, that I struggle through life. And if there's something that I have learned, it's that these sun meditation teachings work in our daily lives and take us forward much farther than we thought it ever could. There is only one Sun Master Songdam in the world, and that's as it should be. I am every single day, literally every single day, I am so grateful that I had the chance to meet him, that he accepted me as his disciple, that I had the chance to learn from him. I am grateful for every second of every meeting that I've ever had with him. I am grateful for every word of every Dharma speech that I've ever heard from him. But that's him. For you and me, we still don't know what we're capable of. What we would be capable if we became enlightened and we had enlightened wisdom and love to give to the world. What I have learned was it's when I failed to become him that I was finally free to become myself. It was when I stopped being obsessed by his amazing qualities that I was first able to begin to pay attention to what I might be capable of. My failure at my greatest dream of becoming like him actually freed me to live a life according to who I really am. And this is what I wish for those of you who have experienced that kind of failure in your lives, to reflect on it. Use sun meditation, reflect on it, and see how this failure might actually be liberating you from an unrealistic or inappropriate expectation. Each of us has an image in our minds of who we would like to be. Each of us has an image in our minds of the kind of life that we would like to live. Each of us has a set of external standards by which we judge ourselves. But we have to ask ourselves, are these the right images? Are these the right standards? Do they not distract us from who we really are? Who we are right now and what we might be capable of, what secret talents and qualities that we have. I very much believe that every single human being is a world and a universe unto themselves. And it is upon us to explore ourselves. It is our responsibility to explore ourselves and find out what natural resources does the world that I am possess that I have not discovered yet. And when we look to the outside world and to the outside standards and think, I'm going to try to be like that, we lose a world. We lose a universe. So this is something that I very much want to share with my student and people who feel like him. Now let's once again hold our meditation posture, re-enter meditation, and let's listen again to Sun Master Songdam as he teaches us how to find ourselves through our practice of sun meditation.
이니 자유 충천기라 일념회과 시장분이라나 막도 염화 소식다나라 우여산조 갱상혼이라나 인인자유 충천기라 일념회광시장분이라 사람이 다 스스로 하늘을 찌르는 기상을 가지고 있어. 한 생각 돌이켜 반주하면 이것이 대장부다. 막도 염화 소식단하라. 부처님께서 영산회상에서 연꽃을 들어보이신 법이 말세가 되어서 그 소식이 끊어졌다고 말하지 말아라. 우여산조 갱사원이라 비개인 뒤 산세가 서로 부르고 있지 않느냐. 세상은 말세가 되었다. 이렇게 말을 하지만 말세가 되어서 명예나 재산이나 부귀영화, 권리 그런 것 가지고 서로 개인끼리도 다투고 단체로 다투고 나라끼리 다투고 있지만은 사람이 가지고 있는 불성은 옛날이나 지금이나 몇 억만 겁이 지난 뒤라도 그것은 변함이 없으므로 정법을 믿고 최상승법에 의지해서 본참 화두를 들고 정진하면 바로 부처님 살아계실 때와 조금 더 다름없는 그것이 영산회상이 되는 것입니다. 화두는 염송에 오른 것만 해도 1700 화두인데 그 1700 화두 가운데에도 시삼마 이 무엇고 화두는 화두의 근본인 것입니다. 역대 조사와 특히 육조 스님께서 이 시삼마에 대한 법문을 하신 것을 우리는 육조 단경에 볼 수가 있습니다마는 어떤 화두라도 근본은 이목고로 돌아오는 것입니다. 이목고는 눈으로 무엇을 볼 때나 귀로 무슨 소리를 듣거나 일체처 일체시에 행주자와 어묵동정 간에 가만히 있어도 무슨 생각이 일어나거나 바로 그때에 즉해서 이 먹고 이렇게 화두를 드는 것입니다. 우리 중생들은 눈으로 무엇을 봐도 망상이 일어나고 귀로 무엇을 들어도 망상이 일어나고 누가 나의 신경을 건드리는 소리를 해도 번뇌심이 일어나는데 그 일어나는 망상을 버리려고 하지 말고 망상이 일어났다 하면은 바로 거기에 즉해서 이 먹고로 돌아오는 것입니다. 그래서 활구참선을 통해서 참나를 찾는 수행을 하는 사람은 모든 밖으로부터 들어오는 경계나 안에서 일어나는 잡념이나 그런 것들을 버리고 쫓아낼 필요가 없이 바로 거기에 즉해서 화두를 들기 때문에 모든 것은 나로 하여금 화두를 듣도록 채찍질을 해주는 부처님의 법문이라고 생각할 수가 있습니다. 말세에 태어났다고 자포자기 하지 마시고 산새 우는 소리, 비가 오는 소리, 꽃이 피고 단풍 지는 그 속에서 우리는 거기에 즉해서 화두를 들고 의단이 동로하도록 잡들이 한다면은 바로 우리도 언제 어디서라도 확철되어 할 수 있는 것이니 그런 자신감을 가지고 해제했다고 그럭저럭 지내시지 말고 열심히 정진하시기를 부탁을 합니다.
So in his Dharma speech, Sun Master Songdam tells us that each of us possesses a dignity and an energy that can pierce the sky. And if we just don't give up on ourselves, and we practice sun meditation, and we, to use his phrase, to turn the light of one thought around, turn our mental gaze inward toward its own source, we will discover this dignity, this energy, this so-called Buddha nature within ourselves. Now we hear that, and we practice meditation, and we say imoko on every out-breath, and we don't feel that. We do not discover our dignity and our energy. Why is that? And I would like to suggest here that it's because only our lips are moving. We're just saying imoko mechanically, but deep inside, on an unconscious level, what often happens is that we are trying to match a certain image of spiritual practice, meditation, Buddhism, or the kind of person that I want to be. There is always an image. There is always a hidden image or a hidden standard. And that's what we're really paying attention to. So when we're doing imoko in practice, it's like our mouth is saying one thing, but we're actually obsessing over something else. It's very important that we fail to achieve this image in our minds, because we will always fail, because the image is always unreal. And it's only when we fail at trying to become like that image that we're finally free from it. And this is why I try to emphasize on this program, relax. Don't try to prove anything to yourself. Just settle down, turn your gaze inward, and just do it in a very peaceful and restful way. This is not a test. No one is judging us. We're just directing our gaze inward to find out who we really are. Now, in my experience of doing this program for the last few years, every once in a while someone comes up to me and they say, how can you deliver so many lectures about basically the same thing, sun meditation? And I always tell them, it's not because I'm smart, it's not because I'm knowledgeable. As I said before, it's because I've got so many problems. And because I couldn't stand living with those problems, I had to do something about it. So I used the sun meditation, and I really did discover in my own lived experience that the meditation works on these problems. And so the things I thought were the worst parts of myself actually became the stepping stones for my progress forward. And this, I believe, is how you turn failure into your own personal success. This is something that I very much wish for you. And as Sun Master Songdam said, please never give up on yourself. When you turn your gaze inward, when you drop all standards about who you're supposed to be or who you want to be and all those kinds of images, when you drop all of them and just look within, you will find out who you really are and how you're really supposed to live, and you will learn how to do things your own way. And I guarantee you, you will find within yourself something that is beautiful and dignified and unique and altogether original. Just never give up on yourself. This takes us to the end of another episode. So once again, I will thank all of our viewers for watching today's program, and I will conclude with the traditional Buddhist greeting, may we all attain enlightenment. And now, let's reassume our meditation posture and enter into our closing meditation.